Don't be afraid to talk to literally anyone that you see. If you see someone on LinkedIn that has a job that sounds interesting to you or works at a company that you're interested at, that's how I started out, was reaching out to people who I had no connections with whatsoever. We've got a lot of people who will not respond, but for the people that will, they'll remember you. And keeping that relationship is really important because who knows where in the short term or long term that could go. Hey y'all, my name is LoMo Phillips and I'm a community generalist at Asana. And what that means is that I work with the Asana community around the world across our ambassador program, our community forum, and our public and private events. So I think I always knew that I wanted to be in events somehow. So even if I didn't start out in events, I always tried to trickle that into anything that I did. So for example, I started out in the nonprofit space, working mostly with college students and then with high school and middle school students. And within that, I really tried to introduce events and getting people together. That's always been something that's really of importance to me and that I'm really passionate about is gathering people together. So I started out as the business operations manager for Stanford Student Enterprises, moving then to being the CEO and financial manager of that enterprise, and then moving on to being the events and external relations manager for a small nonprofit based here in SF. From there, I took a little while off. It was COVID, but thankfully I found my stride, and that's when I came to Asana. First as the community events coordinator, I think was my title at the time, and now I'm the community generalist. I think it started when I was little and planning events with my mom, just even at my home, just from the decorating to getting people together to deciding on the time. How do you create those little moments and that experience that when people walk away, they've maybe forgotten their worries for a little bit, or they've gotten to meet someone new that they're going to connect with for the short term or long term. And then when I came to Stanford, I really found my stride in helping to plan the Black Student Union's high school conference, or just finding different events where I could connect with different people that I wouldn't have connected with otherwise. And with that, I was like, okay, events is kind of where it's at for me. Came to Asana and then was laid off about a year later due to tech layoffs that were happening at the time. And then the day that I got laid off, I'm like, well, here it is, here's the opportunity, just go ahead and go forth. And I started really researching what it took to start a business, started talking with other entrepreneurs, not necessarily just in the event planning space, but just folks, specifically women of color who had started their own business and how they started it all, or things that they had wished they had known, unexpected challenges that had come up for them. But I believe in November of 2022, I founded my own events company called Leave It to LoMo Events, where whether it be event planning, event management, event strategy, anyone can come to me for their event planning needs. And so through that, Leave It to LoMo Events has grown a lot through word of mouth marketing, and getting to plan events for family, for friends of friends, all around the Bay Area. And it's something that I balance with my full-time job now. Community, of course, comes to the forefront. Community, relationships, love, unity as a part of community. That's what I'm going to go with for now. The way that I'm defining love is different than the way that people might initially think of love. So when I think of love in this sense, I think of from a support standpoint. With me, with Leave It to LoMo Events, or with me as a generalist from Asana, you know that you have that support behind you in whether you're presenting for the event or whether you're the event host. Just knowing that you have that love and that support with me and with my team is really what's important to me. I guess because I haven't really ever had like a 5-year plan or like a long-term vision, I kind of take things as they come, to be totally honest. Like I was actually just yesterday, I was walking around and saw someone from the Association of African American Vintners, Christopher Renfro. He happened to be in this shop that I walked into, and he connected me with someone who works at the Museum of Food and Design in New York. And so I'm excited to take up on that opportunity, meet them, see what comes of it. And that's kind of always been my MO in a way, is just seeing the opportunities that come, but not only being a taker, but also a giver as well. So every opportunity that I can to connect people with other people within my network or to give back to communities is also really important to me. And so I guess I haven't really thought of it, of them all connecting together, but I can see how the values of each of them kind of tie into who I am. I think I've just gotten used to it in a way. So I'm going back to when we were at Stanford. I majored in art history. I constantly got the question of, why aren't you in computer science? Why aren't you in a certain engineering degree? And that's just not where my passion was. And actually even maybe related, going back to further than my parents, but also my grandparents. My grandpa was super supportive, thankfully, of everything that I wanted to do. And he always pushed me in the direction of my passions. And so knowing that I had that familial support in that of like, just follow your passions and the rest will follow, is something that's always really stayed with me. And so I think how that translates to my career is knowing that I'm not necessarily the smartest person in the room when it comes to tech, but knowing that's totally okay and I bring a unique and important perspective is something that I constantly remind myself of as well. And so being able to be my full self at work has been something that's been super important to me. And so presenting that, whether it be during meetings, during projects, to hopefully inspire other people to do that same thing is something that I try to do each and every day. Truly, I was super shy. Growing up, I was really not confident in myself, had a lot of issues with self-esteem. And so just reminding myself or coming off as confident, sitting up more straight, looking people more in the eye, just over time has made me feel more confident, just like in that like physical realm. In terms of voicing my own opinion, I think I really watched for people that I looked up to, so other Black women in the room, other folks, other minorities like speaking up, and seeing like what happened in the rooms and realizing, hey, it's actually okay for me to voice my own opinion as well. Nothing necessarily bad will come from it, and I've always felt better in bringing my own opinion to the room. So I've tried to do that in like little ways throughout, whether it be meetings or projects, inserting my own perspective, and that's made me feel a lot more confident from 5 years ago even. Worker's high for me is when you're in a moment, a particular moment. You can't necessarily anticipate it, but it's a moment where it all connects, it all meshes together, and it's that aha moment of this is why I do what I do, and it's all working at the same time. It's that high that I get during every event where you can really see all the months of planning, the meticulous details, the working with vendors and staff, where you see the smile on people's faces and you know that they're experiencing exactly what you wanted them to experience. And that for me is the worker's high. Don't be afraid to talk to literally anyone that you see. If you see someone on LinkedIn that has a job that sounds interesting to you or works at a company that you're interested at, that's how I started out, was reaching out to people who I had no connections with whatsoever. We've got a lot of people who will not respond, but for the people that will, they'll remember you. And keeping that relationship is really important because who knows where in the short term or long term that could go. To give you an example about that, when I was looking for jobs back in late 2020, I was doing exactly that, reaching out every day to about 5 to 10 different people who maybe I did have some sort of warm connection with, maybe I didn't, sending them emails and saying, hey, I'd just love to learn more about you and what you do. I'm just interested to ask you a few questions. And within that, there were actually a few people from Asana who said yes, they talked to me a little bit, and they said, hey, we don't have any job openings right now, so we can't do anything. I said, totally fine. I was just curious to hear about you. Thank you so much for your time. A year later, someone on the community team said, hey, I'm actually being promoted and there's a job opening now and I think you would be a really great fit for that. And that was actually the story of how I got to Asana. So being open to that, and then also being open to people reaching out to you when they want to learn more about you. I totally believe in karma and the giving back and taking. And so that is something that when people reach out to me and they ask for advice, I always say, be okay with asking anyone around you because you never know what the opportunity will be.